Hey everyone, Hannah here. Before we get into the show, there is something important I must address. Parnassius has been removed from RuneScape Weekly and banned from Kill, Skill, and Chill for extremely racist remarks. We at RuneScape Weekly want to make it very clear that George Floyd was murdered by racist cops and that modern policing is a racist system originating in slave catching. We believe in Black Power, and we believe that Black Lives Matter. These topics are not up for debate. They are matters of human rights. Justice for Mike Brown, Tamir Rice, Sandra Bland, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, David McAtee, and all Black people murdered by police. Say their names. We will now have a moment of silence before we get into the show. You're listening to RuneScape Weekly for 7/11/2020. I'm your host, Hannah, with 15 years of RuneScape experience. That's right, I got my 15-year cape. Joining me today is Malice Alice. Notes production has been done by the RR Man.
Hello.
Hello, Alice.
I wasn't sure if there was anything else we have to do, but...
No, my brain was just deciding what to do next, and that silence won't actually exist in the real podcast because silence disappears when I edit, so...
That's right. Alright, perfect.
Yeah, what have you been up to in RuneScape recently, Alice?
Honestly, I haven't done a whole lot other than, the dailies, and then every once in a while I'll sit there and farm invention components at corpse spiders. So that's about it, though.
Gotcha, yeah. I have not been playing a ton either. I've been mostly doing divination, though. I don't know, with the current world events and how terrible shit is in this country, it is, for me, it's just, all I want to do in video games is the most relaxing thing possible, so I've just been like, I want to do divination, and that's been good.
That's a good strategy. Sometimes I set up, like, RuneScape so that I just log in and do the same thing for the entire time.
Yeah.
It's that way for weeks or months.
Yeah, totally. I've been staying at that divination colony for at least a month now, and it's a great way to play, especially, one of the things I really love about RuneScape, and I feel like that really gets missed about it, especially because, the more popular version is old school, and I think what I'm going to say here is less true there, although it's still true. It's like, RuneScape at its core is like an idle game, and I know that genre gets a lot of hate because it's a mobile genre of games, and people hate mobile games, and also microtransactions can suck in them. But like, the reason I play RuneScape and don't play other idle games is because, like, I have 15 years of progress in RuneScape, and it's nice to do something in a game that it's gonna like last for a long time. But I really like how modern RuneScape has leaned more and more into the idle game. Especially like Archaeology is kind of the ultimate example of idle gaming, which reminds me.
Oh, it's wonderful.
We haven't even talked about Archaeology on the show yet, so. I
know. Well, now's the time. I plowed through Archaeology. Like, I went to 120, and I'm like, yep.
Wow.
I had a great time, though. It's absolutely like what I think the new standard for like gathering skills should be.
Yeah, I think it's the best skill I've ever made, hands down. Like, I don't think there's anything that compares to it. Tying, like, I was sad that there weren't any quests with it, but really, as you do it, it's like the quests are built into the skill, and it feels really supernatural. And it doesn't, like, some games you play and you get like a lore drop, and it feels like, why am I getting this lore drop? I didn't do anything. But like, because you're doing Archaeology, it makes total sense that you'd be finding these pages and putting together and solving these puzzles. So I love that it's basically one giant quest. Of course, there's branching stories, but you can almost look at it as if questing was made a skill, it would be Archaeology. It's very good.
That's why I love it so much too.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Questing. I love questing. I live for it.
Yeah.
Favorite things.
Archaeology. I'm really happy with what they did with it, and I feel like people rush through it. Well, rush through it's the wrong word, but I think a lot of our perspective is colored in the pandemic because it came out right as the shutdown started happening. At least in
great timing, right?
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, we will hop into some show housekeeping before we get into the rest of the show. Well, the biggest thing is we're kind of taking RuneScape Weekly in a new direction. The making slight format changes. What we're going to be doing is RuneScape news up front, followed by general gaming and tech news and pop culture news. This is kind of because there's not always a lot of news around RuneScape, and we still want to make an interesting show for everybody. And sometimes Reddit has great topics, sometimes it doesn't. It feels like that place is, for the past few years especially, been stuck in a cesspool of negativity. So I think we're going to pull less from it than we have been, just because it's, we want to do positive things, I guess. I've gone off script, so my brain has totally lost track of thought here, but I do want to say it's really not, I don't really think it's actually going to be that major of a change. It's more a recognition of how we like to go off the rails. I mean, if you've listened to RuneScape Weekly for a long time, you know that we just randomly talk about pop culture topics or other games in the middle of the show because it comes up. And so this is kind of, if there's a slow news week, then there probably won't be much about RuneScape, and we'll talk a lot about other video games. But if it's like this week's is a great example, because we're coming back after such a long hiatus. It's basically going to be all RuneScape news, and there's going to be one general gaming topic, and maybe expounding on other games we've been playing. But yeah, so I think it's going to be exciting. As far as co-hosts go, we are trialing this out. Alice has offered her time to try this and see how it goes. We're not sure. I'm not sure what that would be. My plan is to be primary host and get as many co-hosts as I can until such a time that Magebit feels up to coming back on the show and hosting. I'm hoping that with me trying to host regularly, maybe he can come back as a co-host and hang out more and not feel like he has to run the whole thing. But my hope is to get more regular releases of the show out. I don't know if it's going to be actually weekly or if it'll be bi-weekly or if it'll be monthly. Because it depends on the availability of folks and how we can make things work. But hopefully there will be at least slightly more regular RuneScape Weekly content coming out, because I honestly love doing this show and I love the whole community. Do you have any thoughts, Alice, on the new format?
No, I mean, it makes total sense. RuneScape Weekly needs to adapt in regards to what Jagex is doing too. They're being a bit more reserved in what they're revealing right now, and the whole COVID thing is factored into that too, I'm sure, with them. So yeah, we can just adapt it, and it's always in the context of RuneScape, right? Even if we go off the rails, it's always we always bring it back in the having played the same game together.
Absolutely. I mean, I imagine having these other sections will be constantly referencing back to RuneScape, because I mean, RuneScape Weekly is really called what it is, and I'm kind of speaking for Magebit here, but at least my feelings about it, I should say, not what RuneScape Weekly is, but it's just a bunch of people who love RuneScape talking to each other once a week or whatever. Maybe like I said, one week we'll talk about RuneScape a lot, other weeks we won't, and I think we've always done that. We've just kind of maybe felt bad about it sometimes, because people like a clear thing. And the nice thing is, with keeping it section like this, hopefully if you only want to listen to the podcast for the RuneScape stuff, then there will be a nice cutoff for you, or at least a better cutoff than maybe there has been in the past.
Yeah.
And another thing I wanted to say is thank you to all the Patreon supporters. I forgot to get the list from Magebit, so I am not sure who all's on there. I will try to have that by the next show. But everyone who's kept supporting the Patreon during the hiatus, and just in general, if you've ever supported, it's greatly appreciated. It helps keep the servers running, because maintenance ain't cheap, and we appreciate the help of keeping things running. Also, I wanted to say that if you want to be a co-host on the show, whether you've approached before and we've forgotten because we've been going through a lot recently and haven't been around that much. I know Crass. I don't know if I'm saying your name right because I've never had to say it out loud before. But I know that you had interest and we talked some. So if you hear this episode and you haven't gotten back to me before this, please get back to me. And also anyone else, like I said, if you've ever wanted to be a host before and we kind of forgot about you because we have been on a hiatus and stuff, go ahead and hop in the Discord, which is discord.runeweek.com, and shoot me a message. I'm Hannah Quinn. You can DM me or you can @ me in the general channel, whichever you think works better. And I look forward to hearing from folks. And I also wanted to say on a personal note, my mental health is much better these days, and I am looking for people to hang out with more in game. So if we've talked in the past about doing stuff and I never got around to it, please get back to me. Or if you haven't reached out before, I really enjoy playing the game with other folks. Kill, Skill, and Chill, our clan, which is Kill, Skill, the letter N, and then Chill, just to make that clear for everybody. People are welcome to guest in there. That's a good place to find me. But also, I believe my DMs are open on RuneScape. If I should really check that and find out for sure, but I will try to remember to do that. And just as a part of the general PSAs, we wanted to again affirm that we believe in Black Power and that Black Lives Matter, and that if you have money or if you have the time to sign petitions or anything like that, we have a link in the show notes, blacklivesmatter.carrd.co. That is a great resource to go to where you can send money to bail funds, send money to different organizations doing things. If you are in a city that is currently protesting, please support the bail funds there if you can. Support the protests. Go out and protest safely if you are able to and you are healthy enough to. And thank you to everyone who is protesting or has protested. I don't know if you have anything. I've covered a lot and forgot to throw back to you, Alice. So if you want to add anything, let me know, or we can keep rolling.
Sure. No, just in absolute support of that. Been out protesting myself, as you and I had talked previously, here in Minneapolis. So it definitely hit close to home. And,
yeah.
But yeah, let's talk RuneScape.
Let's talk RuneScape. All right. Okay. First thing we have going is we have a new community manager in Mod Holy, which is surprisingly not a the RR Man found out is not a reference to Silicon Valley, the HBO TV show. It's just a completely random accident, which is funny. Yeah. Have you watched that show?
No, I haven't. But
okay.
I trust that the reference is accurate.
Well,
the lack of reference.
The lack of reference is the funny thing. Huli, it's just weird because that was a pretty popular nerd show, and then a nerdy person picking that name without knowing about it is funny. But Huli is in that show is essentially the stand-in for Google and Apple. Where the CEO is a giant piece of shit, and so yeah, you can extrapolate from that.
Sounds like real life.
Yeah. That show is supposed to be a parody of Silicon Valley, although sometimes it feels like less of a parody and more just a straight up this is just Silicon Valley, and this show doesn't even realize how. Yeah, it's a good show. It's an interesting show. It has problems, but it's a pretty decent show.
Yeah. Anyways,
we'll get into this Reddit post from Mod Holy. Hey, Scapers. I'm Mod Holy, a new lead community manager for RuneScape here at Jagex. I'm still getting settled in right now, and it's been a whirlwind few weeks already, but I wanted to drop by and say a quick hello following the stream yesterday. So what is a lead community manager? Simply put, I'm responsible to guide the existing team of RS community managers to bring you closer to the game you love, find opportunities to bring us all together and as a community, and make sure your voice is being represented to the team effectively. Speaking of which, I want to shout out the current team of Porky and do you know how that's pronounced? Kari? I don't know.
I think it's Kari.
Kari, okay. I don't know why I don't recognize that mod name. Are they relatively new, or?
I think Mod Kari is actually is one of the community managers.
Okay, I must have never heard it before.
Yeah, I think she has more of a junior role. If I don't know if that's the actual title, but
Sure.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Both of them do such a great job in so many areas, and I'm pretty darn excited to see what we can cook up as a group. They are super passionate, hardworking people that put in some serious effort to represent player voice at the studio. With the team being up to strength with my arrival, my brain doesn't like these words in this thing apparently, we're going to take a little time to assess our next steps. How might we better balance our priorities? How do we put more time into joining the conversation? How can we do even better in representing your discussions to the studio? These are the kind of questions we're going to go away and answer as a team before we kick anything off. Being more present day to day with the day-to-day dialogue will come pretty quickly, and over time you'll hopefully see us do some really cool community-centric stuff. As a team, I want us to not be afraid to try some new things and let you be the judge, and not be afraid to adapt if we miss the mark. Anyway, enough waffling. It's great to be here. Thanks for the warm welcome on stream and during that amazing Pride Parade. See you in Gillinor. Mod Hooley. Awesome.
Welcome, Mod Hooley.
Welcome, Mod Hooley. I'm excited to see someone new on the community manager team. I hope that they don't get burnt out too quick, like community managers often do. It's often a thankless job.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that they're making some changes in the community management department over there, and I mean, we had Shawnee, and there's been shoes to fill, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. There is. All right, we will get moving on here to introducing player advocacy groups.
Right.
Do you want to read this one?
Sure, I can do that. So, introducing player advocacy groups. We value the insights of every one of our players. It's what the foundation of RuneScape is built on. And while we've always worked together with our fantastic community, our development team are looking to make even better use of the deep knowledge, insights, and perspective offered by our most committed adventurers. To do this, we are forming expert feedback teams called Player Advocacy Groups, or PEGs for short. We're calling this process for forming a PEG champions and charters, and here's how it will work. Number 1, choose a goal. Our developers choose an area which could benefit from PEG feedback. Find a champion. Number 2, find a champion. Champion is a player with real expertise in the topic. However, being a champion is about more than just knowing the game. We'll be also looking for people with great communication skills and who have trust of the RuneScape community. These are brave souls who lead our pegs and take on some of the responsibility of making RuneScape the best it can be. Number 3, define a charter. The developers and the champion will work together to form an agreement or a charter that outlines the goals, expectations, and responsibilities. We realize this all sounds quite serious, but with good reason. The champion will be contracted as a consultant to Jagex for the duration of the PEG.
That's awesome. So that sounds like they're actually paying them?
Yep. So the champion is a paid position. So and there is a lot of work with it too.
That I am glad that they aren't just. I mean, they are still I'm glad they aren't just abusing community goodwill to get free work, is what I was going to say. I mean, I think there's still some weird lines below that I don't know. It depends how much work there is from the people below that. But paying, it's a good thing that they're not just doing this all, because most places that do stuff like this expect to pay people nothing, and that's wrong.
Yeah. I'm glad you stopped me halfway through this list, because it's quite an extensive list.
It is.
And yeah, I mean, they had a live stream with their champion too, and they detailed more of that out so people could understand exactly what's all involved with the pegs. But the initial announcement really had me intrigued, especially surrounding the environment around Reddit.
Sure.
So, but do you want me to read number 4?
Let's see. Yeah, might as well finish that list and then we'll move on to the live stream.
Sure. So number 4, the announcement: new pegs and their charters will be revealed to the community, and the champions will begin recruiting their teams. These peg members will be volunteers selected by the champion, and while having fewer obligations, will be vital in helping the champions and the developers do their best work. Number 5, it begins. The peg then gets to work. Note that group membership can be altered at any time by the champion and when there's appropriate justification. And number 6 is, once a peg is complete, we will work with the champion and the team to provide an account of the experience and results that will be shared with all of you. Over the course of this month, we'll be launching our very first peg for Runescape.
This seems like a much more ethical way to get feedback from the community, because this problem with direct Reddit, or even like the poll, that power to the players stuff they did with the polling system. I can't remember what they called the last version of that. But all that stuff has a lot of problems where, it's a popularity contest, and it can also lead to abuse of the people working at Jagex, because, it makes people want to yell about, hey, we want this update. Whereas if you're creating these teams, it will hopefully make the community give more constructive feedback instead of just being angry about things.
I think it's about also increasing the quality of the feedback too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't know if one-liners on Reddit and that get upvoted necessarily are the best way to provide that feedback, or
right, because the thing that goes to the top at Reddit isn't the most insightful thing. Reddit likes to pretend that don't upvote based on your feelings, only upvote based on if it's relevant, but that's not how it actually works.
Yeah, and I'm guilty of that too.
Yeah, everybody is. Nobody I vote for the posts I think are funny, or oh, this is a good shit post, I'll vote for this. No one actually upvotes based on some weird criteria that was made up at the beginning of Reddit, because it's just not how human beings work.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's to say there has been good stuff too, but overwhelmingly it hasn't been that way for a while, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of love and respect for the people who try to run the subreddits. I know a few of them, and it's extremely hard work to manage that kind of community feedback. And the issues we talk about around Reddit, it's not RuneScape specific. It's unfortunately gaming as a whole has this toxicity problem and how it gives feedback. And it's cool to see Jagex trying new ways to make that less toxic, hopefully.
Well, I mean, judging just based off how many JMods through the years have had to take breaks,
right?
From the community, speaks a lot to how their interactions sometimes go.
Absolutely. Every time I see, there's a lot of JMods who clearly leave just because of burnout, or like you said, just take breaks because there's clearly to get yelled at every day is not. It can get exhausting if you're not good at filtering that stuff, and there are some people who are really good at filtering it, and there are some people who are not.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, like, especially, like, like you spend 6 months making something you think the community is going to love, and then it comes out to people yelling how it's bad, and it's like, and it sucks too because Reddit creates this echo chamber. It doesn't actually take the majority opinion for Reddit to be the entire front page of Reddit to be covered in people saying this update is bad, because the majority of players don't use Reddit ever, because like the majority of players are just people who are playing a fun video game and they don't engage in the community like that. But yeah, I like these steps. We can go ahead and hop into the TLDW for the player advocacy group breakdown. Do you have any parts of this that you think are more important than the rest, or do you not quite remember how this stream went?
It's been a little while now, so I mean, I'm happy to. It is intense, this list, but we could probably skip over, the creation of it and go to the part where they announced who the champion was, where it says designing the first peg.
Oh, so not the team part, or?
No, where it says the first part is it goes player advocacy groups, and then there's a creation.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, and go down to designing the first peg, the second paragraph.
All right. Designing the first player advocacy group, the RS guy. Starting point was scattered, and everyone had a different idea, but it came together as it progressed. Needed to find out how to collect information, how will we display it, how are we going to present it. First thing was to form a team and have calls and meetings with them at Jagex. The team, finding a leader. This was a pay position since it would require a lot of work. The person needed to be a good leader, a player expert, and could handle the scrutiny of the wider community. Selecting a leader, the RS guy. We needed someone who was conscientious. Am I reading that? Yeah, who's conscientious about the selection process. If we see someone forming a biased team, we would scrap it and try again. That's a loaded statement.
Yeah.
All nominees were in a position to claim expertise and advocate for the player base. Great organization skills needed to be an inter. Is that a typo, or is my brain?
It looks like a typo. It's weird. It's weirdly worded, is what it was.
Great organization skills needed to be and interfaces between the players and Jagex. Insight into development process and strong leadership skills. The RS guy was also partly chosen partly due to the great discussions at and following RuneFest.
Yeah, the write up Rubric did is a little wonky in some parts.
It's hard. I have mass respect to this one was by Rubik. Mass respect to Rubik and the other person who works with them to write these, because these things I could not make it as clear as they do. It is so freaking hard.
It is hard.
Let me see. Now I lost my place. I found it.
Yep, got it.
Forming the team. Important criteria. Knowledgeable players who were representative of a community. Someone who could understand a topic clearly and get involved and fight for the things they cared about. Knowledgeable about one subject but willing to learn about the game. Process. Reached out to a number of Discord communities for nominations. Interviewed and spoke with 20 to 30 people and read applications of 50 to 60 more in just 1 week. Meetings. Themes. PVM bossing, PVM slayer, clue scrolls, skilling, Iron Man, other. It worries me. It feels like they should have. I hope they pick an actual skiller at some point to advocate to be in charge of that player advocacy group, because I don't like I love the RS guy, but he's primarily a PVM dude. Like that's. Yeah. I mean, I imagine that in his free time he may be less of that, but that's what he builds his RuneScape channeling around, which makes sense because that's what is popular. I don't blame him for that, but
Right.
it would be great to have a presence of a person who does mostly skilling on a team. That would be great, and maybe they found that in the members below the RS guy. I imagine they could have.
Yeah, they list out quite a few people. I'm not familiar with all of them. I mean, I think I would be if I hung out in the RuneScape Discord a bit more, but
yeah, that Discord's hard to get into.
Yeah.
It's so many people. I'm not good at talking in environments that big.
Me either. So, but I mean, I do have my own thoughts on, the demographics of who he chose.
Yeah. Do you want to share those now, or did we get into that later in here?
I mean, we can take a pause here since that was the end of that section. I mean, it was pointed out by more than a few people and he addressed it preemptively too, since he knew, but there are no women that on the team that he assembled, the RS guy.
Yeah.
And he made a statement saying, he's like, well, we asked 2 women and they said no. And I'm like, well, is that that's all the women in the world? I don't know.
No, yeah, it's definitely frustrating.
2 whole women.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Making a diverse team is hard. I'm not going to pretend like it's not, but
No, it totally is.
But it's also not an excuse to not do it. And there's definitely a big. I mean, in the RS community, especially, I think there's a lot of popular old school RuneScape women who stream, but in the RS community, there are not that many who get that many views from what I've seen. It's mostly the men, and I think that's because most of the views on Twitch for RuneScape are PVM related. There's not really a huge skilling audience. I think a lot of the skilling audience watches old school, or the would-be skilling audience watches old school. And I think that from what I've seen on the Twitch, because there are women who PVM, but from what I've seen on Twitch, I think like the women who stream on Twitch are more likely to be skillers, which is a less represented thing. But yeah, it's something where I really hope the RS guy is. I mean, if he's making that statement, it should say something to him as well, and he should know that means he needs to get to know more women in the RuneScape community, plain and simple, because that's a failing on his part, not a failing of women not existing in this community.
Yeah. Well, he primarily sought out like people who run RuneScape Discords or have like achieved like a notable feat in game. The first one to whatever. And not a lot of women run those Discords because they're not given the opportunity to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then they're like, oh, that you're not knowledgeable enough because you don't have these credentials, even though just some rando on RuneScape that's played a lot might know more. They just don't run a Discord.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that they need to definitely examine their criteria on how they're deciding that stuff, because running a big community doesn't say that you know a lot about the game. It just says you're good at running communities, which is a very different skill than knowing a bunch about RuneScape. But I really, if they're having this much of trouble with it, then it sounds like that whatever team they make next needs to be led by a woman, just to because if you can't. If the RS guy, one of the most popular streamers in RuneScape, can't figure it out, then, well, let a woman figure it out.
Right. Yeah. There's qualified women out there that know a lot about RuneScape.
There are 2 talking right now.
Do you want me to move on to the next section and take over for you, or
that'd be great.
Okay, so the next section is objectives. And objective, peg effectiveness. Are we on the right track? How much investment is required on both sides? What sort of results do we get? And find all the little changes that are so spread out with the level of knowledge required to make a strong change. Some of this is quite vague. Determining to do a ninja peg Due to the existence of the dojo, we could see how effective the peg was compared to general community feedback. Does it provide a different value, perspective, deeper information, or ideas of how things could be different? Is the amount of time invested to get to those conclusions less or more? By allowing a broad peg focus, it allows us to get a deeper focus on future ones without players wanting to bring up additional issues alongside the primary focus. Let's see here. Results. Process-wise, that was the rundown of the project. It was different but it was a good challenge. It was a lot of work, but I'm really proud of what we got done. Okay. Results. We were hitting all of those metrics/goals, doing things the dojo wasn't doing, but was still in agreement with it.
Is the dojo, is that a team within Jagex?
I believe it's the Ninja Dojo. Like, they use it simultaneously. I might be wrong with that.
Oh, okay.
I'm happy to be corrected. They obtained 2 years worth of work for the Ninja team, as well as passing off some of the other teams. That's how much suggestions they collected. Is that what they're saying? 2 years of work.
Yeah, I think that's what they're saying.
Okay. Quite a bit.
It is.
Despite this peg being over, we have documentation we can reference back at any point.
Okay, so yeah, if I'm understanding it, it sounds like they did a bunch of information gathering to decide what direction to take the ninja team in, and then laid out a plan that could last 2 years, and then they're going to decide how they want to follow that. And I'm guessing player advocacy group stuff is probably like 20% of their work. It's probably not like 100% what the ninja team is doing, or however they're dividing that up.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. Future updates. Peg Strike coming up in July, and another later in the year. They may also be sprinkled into other strikes depending on their themes, just like we do with the dojo.
I have missed so much that these. I'm like, what are strikes? What is the dojo? They're using way different terms.
All this like ninja terminology for the ninja team, and like a ninja strike is just like a ninja update.
Oh, okay. So they're just rebranding okay.
Yeah, they're just rebranding a lot of this.
Mon Warden has to prove his worth.
Yeah, right. Well, and they always have like special little names for other teams, but it seems like the ninja team will be more like player facing.
It's just with I forgot. It's been so long since I've covered stuff. I forgot how like constantly this changes, and like knowing the info from a year ago doesn't mean I know anything today, because they like to constantly change their names. Yeah.
It's true. Things have changed, and like dramatically, like just by the start of this year, and it's changing again in the middle of the year already.
Yeah, and I mean now especially makes sense. Now they have to adapt to a pandemic, and I'm hoping that they are not forcing people to work in person.
As far as I know, they have gotten to almost completely remote.
Just awesome.
Yeah, I mean, people still have to go in for some things, but it's like kind of you go in and out. That's good.
That's good to hear.
At least that's all. That's as far as I know from what they've talked about on streams. Moving on. There's future. Oh wait, we already did that one. Determining to do future pegs. Future pegs will require an NDA, which may result in some players not being able to participate. Pegs are done at the developer's request, and they must have a clear goal and timetable. There will likely be more as the model grows.
Interesting. So this is definitely sounding like what I was saying earlier, where they're trying to basically make the JMods less front-facing. so that they're getting less abused, and give them a more constructive way to receive feedback, which is a very, very good sign because, over the past, I mean, Shawnee's left, and that wasn't entirely from burnout. It was also from mistreatment by Jagex, to be clear.
Yep, he's been very clear about that.
Yeah. But even though I've seen Jay. I know Mod Raven talked about after releasing what was that, the quest that wrapped up
Endgame?
Yeah, how the player reaction to Solicia's Endgame really hurt him a lot, and I've seen other JMods talk about stuff like that. So it's good to see Jagex actually making changes to allow their JMods to receive less of that abuse, so that they don't burn out and have to take hiatuses and stuff like that. Because
it's a huge ask to do the community management job too, in a way. Of interfacing with.
Absolutely, yeah. Hey, be a community manager and also be a full-time developer. And being a community manager on the internet these days is having to know how to filter through abusive things, which I think Shawnee was really good at. It's probably why he didn't burn out. Because he was amazing, very good at separating stuff, it seemed. But most games companies aren't making this kind of effort, and they're just expecting their devs to be more open. So I'm glad to see I'm really impressed with where the RuneScape team is going. I have a lot of issues with old school RuneScape, which we will get to.
That's okay.
But it's weird how the teams don't reflect each other, and how differently they let them work for one another. And I think that's a good thing and a bad thing, as its upsides and its downs. Anyways, we can continue.
Yeah, I totally agree. Current plans. There are no current plans of a specific peg. However, there are discussions. We will notify the community when future peg is planned. Current plans include making a logo, making sure the presence is easier to find. All right.
Making a logo.
Yeah, they want to make a peg logo.
Okay. I see.
I love how the current plans. There are no current plans.
Yeah.
Wrapping up, sharing with the community. In the future, there will always be a charter and a retrospective provided to the community. We aren't sharing the actual submission list, as there can be a feedback loop where it can create biases on player needs, and we want to leave people open to surprises. Ninja Peg meeting minutes will be pushed out in a retroactive post around the July strike. For future pegs that may show results much later, it would be posted immediately. Updates in general. Updates that came from PEG will not be marked as such. The goal of PEG is to bring up problems, not implement them, and they don't do development/balancing. The PEG team is also unaware of any of what they brought up would or when it would be implemented. There are checks in place to make sure there's no advantage of the economy based on internal knowledge. So, sounds like they're trying to tighten that up.
Yeah, it makes sense to say stuff like that. I mean, it's impossible for there not to be some potentiality for that in a game with this economy, but it's glad that they're admitting they're aware of it. I'm not.
Yeah.
I am very excited for that. When I first heard about them, I was a little confused and was like, these don't seem that interesting. But now that I understand what they're trying to do, that's a really cool thing. Definitely get women involved, Jagex. But
yeah. I had a similar reaction too. I was like, what is this? Like, what are they trying to do exactly? But I'm glad they did one now and start to see what their goals are for it. And there's going to be growing pains, no doubt. So I'm willing to tolerate those a little bit.
Absolutely. I hope they stick with it and don't dig frustration. I think Jagex gives up on stuff too easily. And I hope this is one of those things that they realize the importance of, because it's not just about making the community happy. Creating an environment that your developers can feel safer working in is extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we will move on here to a statement from Jagex on Black Lives Matter. And this was posted on Jagex's main website. And we shall go ahead and read it. Jagex believes in building diverse and inclusive gaming communities that are... Oh, I should read the title first. Black Lives Matter. Jagex believes in building diverse and inclusive gaming communities that are respectful and welcoming to all, so that our players can escape the stresses and strains of the real world. We don't normally comment on political situations as a company, because you're cowards. However, recent events mean that we must raise our voice and speak in solidarity with our Black team members, players, and the entire Black community in opposing systematic racism. Or just racism. I'm just micro-checking this thing, but I can't help myself.
Yeah, that's all right.
We are committed to donating 60,000... Is that the... I forget what symbol that is.
Pounds.
Okay. 60,000 pounds to Stephen Lawrence Charitable Trust, a UK charity committed to social inclusion, community cohesion, and alleviation of poverty. We also recognize that we need to do more, and we will always look for opportunities to do so. Right now, we are increasing investment in resources and materials to further raise awareness of racism. As we continue to support each other in the workplace, we are also matching employee charitable donations to organizations committed to advancing the opportunities for ethnic minorities and those involved in fighting racial justice. Everyone at Jagex. Is this next part? This next part's a part of it as well. I can't.
No, this is a completely different statement that's under below. That's their mental health one they did.
Oh, okay.
Ages back, I believe.
I see. It's just their blog has it separated weird. I mean, I appreciate. I've seen a lot of JMods doing really cool things. I think Jagex has done the bare minimum as a company. I very much appreciate. I want to be clear that I very much appreciate the work of specific JMods at Jagex, but I think Jagex's management this is a very weak and easy to make statement that says nothing.
Yeah, it's very corporate.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, they only shared this on the Jagex Twitter account, and they published it on the Jagex website. They didn't publish anything on the Runescape website and nothing on the old school Runescape website. And I don't even think they retweeted the tweet on the old school Runescape account, from what I remember. I could be getting these details wrong because it's been a while.
Yeah.
But they...
I don't believe I ever saw anything on the main website, so...
Yeah. If they wanted to make a stand, we all know the old school RuneScape community has a major racism problem. Let's just be honest. I mean, the entire world does too. But the old school RuneScape community has people walking around dressed up at the KKK when there's people angry in that game. So that shows you that there's a major racism problem in that game. And so the fact that they they should have made this at the very least, this statement should have been put on the front page of all three of their websites, not just jagex.com, because no one goes to jagex.com.
It seemed the bare minimum. I mean, you can even look on runescape.com and type in common white supremacist sayings and on the clan list, and a whole bunch of stuff shows up.
God, so, I did not even think about that, but that is not surprising.
No. So there's definite, and some are inactive, but some are still active, and you're like, yep. Yeah.
I mean, even if they're inactive, they should be cleaning that. They should be cleaning those names up.
Cleaning it out. Mm-hmm.
But instead, they're worried about keeping me from putting the word queer in my name.
Yeah.
Silly shit. And we will move on to chat filter improvements, which this is why I was giving specific JMods credit, because this is actual action.
This is a good segue too.
It is. and this was on the official RuneScape website. We have now added chat filter improvements. We have now added additional hard filtering for a number of hateful words and phrases in our chat filter. When these words are used, they will be censored regardless of your profanity filter settings. They have no place in Gillianor under any circumstances. Here at Jagex, we are committed to making our games safe and welcoming spaces. Sometimes that means showing our support on social media and raising money, as we did on June 5th. Like, way to pat yourselves on the back for doing nothing. By committing to diversity and inclusion, but committing to diversity and inclusion also means looking inwards and at the systems that make it difficult for marginalized players to enjoy our games. While our statement and charitable donations were welcomed, many of you rightfully held us accountable for not doing enough to tackle racism and toxicity people still experience in-game. I appreciate whoever wrote that part. As part of our commitment to ensuring Gillianor is an inclusive and representative place to be, we're making some changes to the in-game profanity filter. In February 2011, we introduced the option to turn off the chat filter that had been in place for around a decade. We did this because, as an automated filter, some players felt it got in the way of regular conversations. We had hoped this choice would give players the opportunity to more freely express themselves, but sadly, inappropriate, offensive language and behavior, despite being against the rules, has remained. So, to start with, we're going to be hard filtering a number of hateful words and phrases. This means that some words will be censored regardless of whether the profanity filter is toggled off. The banned words and phrases have no place within Gillianor, and there is not a time or a place when they need to be said. Why typing them should just get you a 24-hour mute, and if you keep doing it, it should get you permanently muted, in my opinion. Like, I don't know why because people are, I appreciate this, but it's just going to lead to people making up alt words or just like being okay with those words being filtered. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate what they're trying to do, and like, yeah, I think they should have those like common words that you can just think of that would probably be on that list. But like, evasion is so easy, and
yeah, and the fact that you're still posting the statement, like, that's also what makes it weird to me, because like, it's very easy to infer in a statement if you're just blurring out one word what someone was saying, you know?
Yeah. And there's like leet speak and just like changing one letter or putting a number somewhere, or even like separating it out with spaces or who knows what else. It's the chat filter seems mostly symbolic to me, rather than like it's actually going to actually curb discrimination and hate in game. Like, it has to be used in conjunction with many other steps. Yeah,
they need people monitoring chat more, especially on high populated worlds that they know are problematic, is honestly. But that would require spending money that they probably don't want to spend. We'll read the rest of this here. We know the filter isn't perfect, and we know it won't solve toxicity within our community, but it's a good place to start. We will be monitoring your reports and feedback, and we will share more about further action we plan to take in the future. We look forward to implementing these changes in the near future. Keep an eye out for news on our website and social channels. In addition, we'd like to encourage everyone to make use of the in-game moderation tool, report abuse feature, and the ignore list. For more information on both, you can check out our guide. Ultimately, all that we ask is that we all respect one another in-game. Gillianor is for all of us. Yeah, this reads to me like, I don't know, well-intending JMods putting in some good work and then corporate speak being put on top of it is kind of how I read it, which is why we're being very critical of Jagex, and I don't know who Jagex is to blame, but I know there are JMods trying to do good work, and I appreciate the people that are, like I've said too many times probably.
Just the Jagex sanitizes their words sometimes.
Yeah, and especially this, once again, this was not posted anywhere in relation to old school RuneScape. If you go to the old school RuneScape newsfeed, this post should have been there too. I can't even tell if this applies to the old school RuneScape chat filters or if they're just talking about the RuneScape chat filters.
I have no idea if it is that way in old school or not, but if someone does, please inform us.
Yeah, if you know if these rules carry across to old school, I would love to know, because from every appearance Jagex is giving, it seems like they don't. And even if they do, they need to be, like, it's clear that they're terrified to say anything about racism to the old school community, if you ask me, because they know what their base is there, and they don't want to rock that boat.
Right. Well, we all saw the reaction to, Pride event.
Yep, the Pride event a couple years ago is a great example, and Jagex as a company's refusal to do what they should have done, which is made the Pride the next year 20 times bigger. But I'm really glad. I forget which JMod organized the Pride event in RuneScape this year, but I very much appreciate their work and everyone who did all that stuff.
I think, as far as I know, it was actually organized by an LGBT clan.
Interesting.
A problematic LGBT clan, and then it was like sponsored by JX, if that makes sense. Like, they're like, this clan is doing something, but it's open to everyone.
Ugh. Of course, there's got to be a problem with it. Yeah,
there's always some challenges.
There is. There definitely is. All right. We shall move on.
Oh, one thing before we do.
Sure.
There was one. There was a valid criticism that was posted on Reddit of the chat filter. Was that it doesn't take into consideration like other languages very well.
Yes.
And how they interact. So they'll be like perfectly fine words in one language, but it'll be censored in a different one, and then you're like, okay, well that's. So I don't know how they would resolve that.
They need to let their localization team work on it. I mean, I think big problem is they basically this is the first time they're really touching the chat filter since they turned it on. I mean, it's not actually, but it's the first time they're realizing, hey, we should actually put work into this thing we turned off in 2011, because turning it off completely was just as bad an idea as turning it on completely. But yeah.
So I guess there's challenges with different languages, which hopefully they'll find a good solution to that soon.
Yeah, I hope there are JMods behind the scenes still working hard and holding the upper management at Jagex accountable to doing more, because I want to see more happen, not this disappear as protests have from the news and stuff like that, because it's very easy to make a statement and then move on, because that's all it takes to make people think you did something. The next thing here we have is the community safety update. Do you know what this was in reference to, or do you have any?
I still don't know, and there's been a lot of speculation, but it's so vague that that's all that you really can do is speculate.
Okay,
but
so no one in the community really knows.
As far as I'm aware, unless that's been updated recently, they haven't really said. The most plausible speculation that I've seen people write about is it's in reference to some like sexual harassment streamers in the old school community. Maybe they carried over to RS3. I don't know.
That makes sense. I think this was the one post I saw in the old school. Let me see if this was there, because I think this post was actually on the old school website too, unlike all the other ones. So that makes sense. This statement is also very perfectly politically correct. Am I using the right word there? I don't know.
It's so vague and it's the bare minimum, and it's like, what are you referencing?
I'll go ahead and read it here, because it's not that long, and then we can continue. Community safety update. Dear Scapers, the safety of our community is of paramount importance to us. We will strive to create a safe space where our community can enjoy our games without fear of abuse. Everybody within our community is expected to abide by our code of conduct. Content creators who breach our code of conduct are not welcome in our game. Really, is that why what's the guy who made those gambling videos?
I'm not familiar.
Why can't I not think of his name?
Are you talking about like that RuneScape grandpa guy?
No, I'm talking about the old school RuneScape streamer. He used to be really popular in RS3. He made that video about making an account using MTX only.
Oh, a friend.
Yes. If
Yeah.
content creators who breach our code of contact are not welcome in our community, then why is a friend still here? Question Jagex. Just wondering. At our events or in our community, and we will take resolute action against those who do. We'll do our utmost to support anyone who faced abuse. This is another weak ass statement, and it totally makes sense. I didn't even think about connecting it to the whole. We have a whole section later about the movement that's been going on in Twitch and harassers being called out, but that makes sense. I didn't even realize an old school RuneScape streamer got called out, but of course they did. It doesn't surprise me. This fucking every streamer everywhere. Well, sorry, every streaming community everywhere has one. Not every streamer. Said that in the wrong way.
Good to be specific there.
Yes. But yeah, it's very telling that this out of all the statements they've made about chat filter improvements, Black Lives Matter, this is the only one that, this being a sexual harassment one, the only one they deemed worthy of also putting on the old school RuneScape website. Like, they...
I think if it happens in like old school, then they're like, oh, we better post it on RS3 too. But if it happens like in RS3, but still applies, I don't know. It's just like, it's weird what they decide to carry over to ours, to old school. But if you're
making a statement about chat filter improvements it should affect both, but they make it very, they didn't, and I know that the chat system is shared between both games, so I'm guessing it affects both, but it just is cowardice to me to not post it in both, because it's only because they don't want that negative reaction, and it's like, that's the community you fostered. You are the people whose responsibility it is to now fix that community, to be completely honest. So yeah, I'm glad they at least said something here, but if they could actually stick by their words and stop being motivated by money, that'd be great, because a friend is one clear example of someone who shouldn't be allowed. A friend's broken code of conduct of the game many times, and they still allow them to create content because it generates them money and generates them players, and that's what they're motivated by. And hopefully they can realize that, I don't know, if the old community, if Jagex would clean the old school community up some and actually take a stand against the terrible shit that goes on in there, I might actually play that game.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly play it like completely removed from everyone else, like solo. That's why I made an iron on it.
yeah, it's not a fun community to try to interact with if you're a minority of any kind. All right.
My experience has been very familiar to that.
Yeah.
Well, what do we have next? The RuneScape update live stream.
Yes.
happened.
This was a very good stream. I don't know how to best cover this because there's a lot of content in here.
I mean, I can start with covering the first section before the line break, and then we can talk about it from there.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to run to the bathroom while you do that. I will be right back.
Sure. All right. Desperate Measures Quest. July 27th is the release date for that. Digging deeper into Gillinor's past, teaming up with some of RuneScape's best-known heroes, giving you a chance to explore the secrets of the Dragonkin on Anachronia for some sweet rewards. There are requirements as well. Desperate Times is required. Excuse me. Anachronia Base Camp tutorial is required. 50 agility, 50 archaeology, and 75 in combat. So make sure you make a note of those if you are behind on your questing or levels. And they also detailed their focus, which is some concept art that they released, which is titled Desperate Measures Prop Design. And there appears to be just some basic concept art. They're being quite secretive, but looks like there'll be some tools involved. Perhaps some dragon tools, it appears, in the concept art. Dragon forceps, dragon cleaver, it looks like. So speculate away on that. And they also detail out, it continues along the storyline of Desperate Times, with you teaming up alongside Thok and Karos once more. Ties in with Archaeology, allowing you to learn some historical and recent lore. Rewards are vaguely listed, so it's not a spoiler necessarily. It says just enrichments to Archaeology. Other information is development began around March, and however, the initial designs, which since changed, began way back. That was strangely worded. There will be more streams in the future to give insight on the development and a satisfying ending, leaving you with questions with more to come as it leads into other content related to the Elder Gods. Exciting stuff. Yeah, I'm waiting for Hannah to show back up, but I'm quite excited for this quest, having done Desperate Times. I think that was quite some time ago. A year ago, I think the previous quest was.
I have returned.
Welcome. I was just saying how I just finished the Desperate Measures section and saying how the previous quest in this line came out, I think, about a year ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have been gone for so long. I want to start. I need to get back into questing because I love them, but it's a lot of reading, which keeps me away from doing them too often. Because oftentimes my brain doesn't want to read. I heard good things about that quest. That's like the new God arc, right? Basically.
Yeah, it seems that way. It's, and we're on. I think it's the start of a major arc. And it starts with the Desperate Times, and I think that was helped. I think Maud Osborne helped write that, so it's very lengthy and detailed.
Lots of dad jokes.
This one's quite serious, but there might have been
okay.
some reference to other quests.
I assume Osborne has to throw in a dad joke or two.
Yeah, I would imagine so. It's been a little while now since, so I'm not.
Gotcha.
It's not completely fresh in my mind, but
sure.
I mean, I had a good time with it.
That's good. I look forward to doing it. I forget how far behind in quests I am. Depending on how much energy I have over the next couple of weeks, I might try to get my quest cape before that comes out. But that depends a lot on how my energy levels are. Anyways, shall we move on to the next section? I can read it?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Update schedule format. This is just a plan/goal, which means it's not a 100% guarantee. Current plan, monthly release cadence. A more frequent, tighter cadence allows us to manage predictability better. Weekly updates will still occur. Implementation. Minimum guarantee of content every month. Mixture of update sizes. Start off small and then pepper in medium to large pieces of content. Cater to all the different player groups. Area, bossing, skilling, questing. Themed months. Roadmap. Roadmap constantly changes behind the scenes, and I don't think I can keep it in a spot you'd feel happy with. There won't be a roadmap of what we are doing every single month. When we are far enough along, we will be comfortable with mentioning it to bring momentum to the update. Things are usually 3 to 4 weeks out when we start teasing it, which I think that's a much better approach, because the big problem Jagex has is like players expect them to release everything they announce, which isn't generally how games work. I mean, even like there's a real famous thing that even on the box for World of Warcraft Wrath of the Lich King, it said that there was going to be a dance studio in that expansion. That update has never happened in that game. It's a great example of just like, you think you have a cool idea, you try to implement it, turns out this cool idea doesn't actually work. And if you don't have the flexibility to get rid of those, then it ends up with half-baked ideas coming into the game. And so I actually really appreciate their shorter roadmap and not trying to overpromise, because it's clearly what the community asked for unknowingly, I think, because the community is usually like, don't lie to us or whatever, but like, it's not lying. It's just, hey, we thought we could do this cool project and it didn't work out.
Yeah. They can help themselves later by not having an outrage when something they announce doesn't happen.
Yeah, exactly.
It seems smart. I mean, people are already outraged that they said there's going to be a roadmap and then they didn't release a specific roadmap.
Right. And that's the problem, is like people don't definitions are not universal to things and how people understand them. And I think Jagex tries to be brutally honest, which often gets them in trouble, because instead of like, they could release a roadmap and then not live up to it, but they'd just be back here in 6 months getting yelled at. So like, they're just being honest that putting one out just means it changes. And like,
I think they had every intention to make a roadmap, but then the global pandemic happened.
That's definitely true too. That changes everything for the foreseeable future, and it's really no idea when that ends. Because even if like I'm happy they're working remotely and it's the right thing to do, but people have to learn how to work again, because you don't have the same, like if you've gotten really good at working in an office environment, those skills are not going to help you work at home by yourself. So I imagine productivity is down, and also I would hope productivity is down, because I would hope Jagex is expecting less of their employees right now as we get used to pandemic life and the foreseeable future.
Well, and it was also like, we didn't really see, because they were mostly done with archaeology by the time the lockdowns were starting to happen. So they released this massive update that was mostly done. So I think people kind of like had the false notion that COVID wasn't affecting Jagex at all.
Yeah.
This monstrous update.
Right, because that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because I think they had to delay it a little bit because of COVID, but it wasn't very long, because like you said, it was mostly done.
It was polishing. What they had to delay is just more polishing.
I doubt that they have had any. I mean, they've made projects, but there was almost certainly a month or two of time that they just essentially lost getting people, figuring out how to have people work remotely, and even just getting people access, because they didn't allow people, like the only people who could access, like, I don't think there was a way for developers to access code remotely at Jagex, if I understand it, up until the pandemic started. Because like, to do any programming, you had to go into the office to do stuff. People would stay late nights, or they would do those game jams, and people would always be in the office. And to allow remote work, they had to completely fundamentally come up with a secure way to allow people to remote in and get their stuff done, which is simple if you don't want to do it securely. But when you're a company like Jagex that deals with a live economy that has a lot of people who want to steal your information, you have to be very careful in how you handle that. All right. I lost where I was, because of course I did. Notes. We are not in a position to make archaeology level content. It isn't feasible. That's very honest and good of them to say. Within each team, focus on building a monthly cadence while having multiple teams working in parallel. Timbo and Osborne have been pumping out design briefs. I'm glad that Timbo's getting more responsibility. He seems real good at his job.
Yeah, I always like Timbo. He seems to know what he's doing.
He does.
I haven't heard from him for a while.
Yeah, I think a lot of JMods have gone silent for probably good reason.
Yeah.
I mean, especially now, I didn't even think about the pandemic, and also trying to be a community manager, and also trying to be developing content. Yeah, you got to turn some of those off.
Yeah. I think they're having a trouble starting major project under COVID conditions.
Yeah, totally, because they're used to doing everything in a boardroom where they can. Yeah, I'm glad that they're being that honest. I don't know what the community reaction is to it, and hopefully we can curb that with how we're talking about it if it's negative. But yeah, admitting that they can't make archaeology content right now. I mean, it sucks, but the whole world's changed, and we don't know when it's going back. That's just how it has to be. We are very committed to the lore narrative of the game, and we will be addressing it more in our plans. We won't be at our peak questing time, period. We won't be at our peak questing time, period.
We haven't been at our peak questing time in a long time.
Yeah, about a decade. In the past, we were reactive, but there are exciting times in the future with ambitious pieces in the next year. Future updates: the beach. July 20th, we get the beach with new outfits and all that new stuff. I think it's a really good time to bring it back. It's I mean, they had the break. Yeah, they had the break, and I mean, now a lot of people don't feel safe going to the actual beach, so getting to go to a beach in game will be fun. Desperate Measures, July 27th. That's an exciting quest. I'm happy to hopefully get caught up and see it soon. Let's see. Mystery Anniversary update. 12-year anniversary of a piece of content. I wonder how much the Gowers, because the Gowers are stuck at home, just like all of us are. I wonder if, I guess they are doing their own company stuff, but depending, maybe there will be more Gower involvement in around the anniversary time. That'd be cool.
There's been some speculation, like I saw a major post that they looked at what was 12 years ago. They're like, oh, what was 12 years ago? And they're like, well, Corporal Beast, maybe hard mode or something, but they quickly snuffed that out. They're like, no, don't stop your speculation.
Yeah, the speculation can build too high of expectations. I imagine they probably want to do like a small quest or something.
Yeah,
which I would be totally okay with. Or
I'm interested in what they were referring to.
Yeah. All right. Next is the Alchemical Onyx content. New piece of content following. Oh, this just says development. New piece of content following the success of Alchemical Onyx. That sounds great. That stuff's going great. God Wars Dungeon 3. A team is working on it. It feels a little quick I guess it's not that quick, is it?
I know they said something where they're like, people were expecting it to be this year, and they're like, it might not be.
Because God Wars 1 was 2008, and God Wars 2 was 2015. Mm-hmm. So it's been these past 5 years have flown by, but it's actually not. It's actually been a pretty damn long amount of time since a God War Dungeon. I'm into it. I'd rather see. I want some in-depth quests about the God Wars is what I want. They've done small ones. And actually, that stuff probably is covered in quests I haven't seen yet. All right, what else do we have? Activity pets. 2 pets are done. 2 pets are receiving final touches. Still another on the back burner. Do you know what activity pets are?
Yeah, so they did during last year where there was gaps in content, and they were trying to address that by saying we want to get a backlog of content that we can just push out when we have a time where they don't have content to push out. Mm-hmm. So they wanted to get a whole backlog of stuff, and they were outsourcing the activity pets, which are pets that you would get for doing a mini game or training in a certain area, link standing, or just random pets you could get for different activities.
I like it.
But yeah, it's been a long time, and I thought they were outsourcing it to help themselves get ahead. So I'm kind of curious what's going on with that.
Yeah, they say it's still on the back burner for now, so I'm guessing that might mean outsourcing. I mean, imagine that outsourcing content's become way harder under COVID too, so that could be part of it. All right.
Probably. Everything's harder under COVID, so.
This is true. Other than seeing doctors. Seeing doctors is easier.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
It's amazing. Orphan dig site. Similar to the other dig sites, but with innovation on features, whatever that means. Halloween event there also. I'm just going to read these quick because we can make assumptions. Halloween event, looking at the past events to make a better one. Christmas, looking to do more. That's a lot to say. Lunar Spellbook, working on recreating it. Suggest what spells you'd like to see in the Ninja Dojo. Okay, that's very confusing that they're changing terms. I'll try to deal with it. It's just frustrating me. I'm excited for Lunar Spellbook changes. That sounds great.
Yeah, they're taking suggestions on Reddit right now, and I think their Discord channel. So if you have some, let your voice be heard.
Hell yeah.
Taking it the traditional way. Suggestions. No pegs.
No pegs. Clue Scrolls suggests improvements in the Ninja Dojo. I guess the Ninja Dojo is probably a channel on Discord. And that's why they're saying it that way?
No, it's a link that's like RS dot or like it's like a form you fill out, a ninja form.
Oh, okay,
like
okay.
rs.game/ninja, I think.
Okay.
Is what it is.
Now I fully understand what you were trying to say earlier. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Clan updates. Top of our mind. Let us know what we should focus on.
Oh god.
Clan updates are yeah. Clan updates are always on the top of your mind. Quests to be determined. Possibly another quest by the end of the year. Okay. That's a good. I mean, this is a very realistic.
Yeah, it's realistic.
Look at what they're gonna do. Yeah, I mean, it's a very ethical look, I would say. Yeah. Let's see. What other parts are worth talking about?
I have to comment and say that I appreciate that they definitely have Clue Scroll advocates on their team or that they're listening to nowadays, because Clue Scrolls have had so much attention to them in recent years, and I love it.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. I need to get back into Clue Scrolls. I kind of got broken by them when they started to allow you to collect more than one of them, because I missed. And also just trying to play too efficiently, which is something I'm doing now that I'm returning to RuneScape, is giving up all idea of playing efficiency and just playing for fun. Like I've spent a lot of my time playing recently just breaking stuff down and standing around friends and talking to them, because it's way more fun to do that than try to go for 120s or whatever. I'm trying to think what else is important here. Let me look. What? I scrolled down too far.
I think you can go to like JX structure maybe.
I want to read this holiday events thing just because it matters to me.
Sure.
Looking back at previous successful Halloween content such as 2014's Death Door or Broken Home, chatting about what we can do to add a bit more depth to it, working on designs at the moment. Christmas, spring, winter weekends back, and better quality of content for Christmas events. Easter didn't go smoothly, so we will look back at that and make improvements. Mobile, would like a mobile stream to discuss the entire situation around it. Rundown, beta phase for iOS, Apple login added a couple weeks ago. We are still working through all the iOS compliance requirements. Yeah, that update's not coming out this year. That's for sure.
Nope.
Remastery. This is the part that I was missing and wanted to get to. Concept, reinvigorating established content with new graphics, quality of life, new challenges / content. This has bled into what we do currently, such as Shattered Worlds, Ninja Strike or Ninja Trike,
It's a typo.
Yeah. Which I would do way more of. Once again, I'm Rubik, and I forget the other person who works on these. Y'all both are amazing. You may also see it with Archaeology alongside Orphan, but for now, nothing to shove in your face. I'm a huge fan of this. I think Remastery is a great way to spend a lot of time during the pandemic, because it allows them to this is a great time to honestly overhaul the graphics in the game, to just update every area that hasn't been updated in the past 5 years. And you already have the established of how to lay it out. It makes it slightly less work. You don't have to add new things. You can just make the areas more fun to access. And I hope they lean into this hard.
Yeah, I would love to see. They talked about doing a remaster of God of War's Dungeon 1.
Ooh.
And I'm like, it's such an iconic area of the game. Like, and if you really think about it, like, new players are overwhelmed by the amount of content, and returning players. And so if you can spend time remastering existing content, and it's so much easier to update. You don't have to worry about like so much as like balancing new things and coming up with new reward ideas.
Yeah, totally. I agree. Yeah, whatever they do, I think I've enjoyed some of their updates, but there are some places like God of War is one where I think you have to be like super respectful to what is there and not like go in a completely new art direction, because what is there is extremely iconic.
Yeah.
Resizable interface. Completed most of the development and engineering work for the technology to do it. Head over to the content devs who are going to focus on the most impactful interfaces to improve on. Most likely the ones that support the new player experience. There are over 3,000 UIs in the game, and they can't possibly focus on all of them. Once again, I think this is Jagex being super realistic, and I really appreciate that. I think the main thing they need to focus on is getting just the general, like, actual main game UI scalable, and text scalable would be, like, chat box text scalable. Because playing this game at anything above 1080p is really hard to do.
Yeah.
All right. Let's scroll. I am running out of steam, so I don't...
That's okay. I can take over.
Are there parts of this that I think we've kind of covered a lot of this, so I think maybe we should move on to another topic here.
I think so too, because they just reiterate the COVID stuff and the player communication.
Yeah.
Groups.
There is one thing I wanted to touch on, which we kind of touched on in a bit, and this whole live stream was about this, but like the idea of, do we expect too much of Jagex and game developers in general? I think COVID has kind of brought this into light, but it's kind of I think a huge push and pull. There's a really good comic, I guess that's the best way to describe it, that I saw that puts it this way: I want shorter games with worse graphics made by people who are paid more to work less, and I'm not kidding. And I fully support this. Generally, game dev is one of the most underpaid fields out there, because people do it out of passion, and it allows them to be mistreated. And things like crunch, like, people want updates in modern RuneScape to be as quick as they are in old school. And there's a reason Jagex hasn't updated old school graphics, I think. And I think that reason is because they know that part of the reason they can put updates out so fast in that game is because of how bad the graphics are. Because it allows it.
It's also like a conscious choice to keep it nostalgic too.
Well, yeah, but there's been a huge movement in the community to like demand like RSHD level graphics or something. And
oh, really? In the old school community?
Yeah, every once in a while there will be a big movement. Like there's been a couple times that third party clients that have used stolen assets from Jagex to like recreate RSHD, and Jagex has banned them. And I think now there's someone who's using like modern rendering to try to make the graphics better. But yeah, Jagex themselves have always been very quiet on the subject, even though I don't know, I've seen it a few times where the community will get very loud about wanting higher graphics. And obviously, when I say the community, I mean like the Reddit and that part.
Yeah.
That's not actually the whole community.
To me, that just sounds so contrary to the idea of retro old school.
It definitely is, but I think a lot of I'm definitely not a supporter of it, but I think a lot of people who play old school don't play it because it's old school. They play it because it's not RS. That's not the main game, and it doesn't have EOC. And really, what people want is they want RuneScape without EOC and without microtransactions, and that's what they find in old school. And I think people really don't account enough for the fact that that game is way easier to make updates in because the graphics are so much more simplistic, and there's also like, instead of having 15 years of, or how many years would it be? 17 years of legacy code. Old school RuneScape started with 7 years of legacy code, and they've had way better ways to figure out how to do stuff currently. And yeah, if they went for higher graphics fidelity, it would mean way less updates. And so something I think important for all of us to remember when we're yelling about game devs making a game look prettier.
Well, and I think that you can do a lot with less too.
Absolutely, yeah. That's part of what that thing I read was for referencing to. Like, we think that like hyper realistic graphics are the end all be all, and it's kind of gotten to the point where like games have way less story these days because they have to look as realistic as possible, and it's like, we can tell, like, I mean, look at the N64 Zelda games or the original Zelda game. It doesn't take good graphics to tell a good story.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. All right. We shall move on to the last piece of RuneScape news for the day: the golden era of minigames. In the golden era of minigames, the upkeep cost of relevant gear was almost nothing. Now you have to justify spending millions on divine charges and repair or downgrade and feel lesser. This is a real problem. Why don't we play? This is a real reason why we don't play why we don't play them anymore. Remove drain rates in minigames. Let minigames be free. So I don't disagree with this post, but I also think it's completely wrong, which is a contradiction.
Yeah.
I know. But
we didn't really have a ton of gear back then that degraded. We had borrows, but
yeah, I mean, I'm happy. I agree that drain rate should be removed from minigames, but I disagree that it's what killed minigames.
No, I totally disagree that was not the main factor in what changed.
What changed? Yep,
happened.
Exactly. Well, really, the biggest thing that changed is we all became adults and had to get jobs, and so we stopped caring. We had less time to just hang out and do silly things, and now we want to spend our time a lot of people want to spend their time in the game super efficiently, and so that leads to efficiency scape. And that's I don't know how you solve that problem in a game this old. I don't think it's really solvable.
I don't think it is either.
Yeah.
I mean, the overall knowledge of the game also increased. Like, as the wiki got written and people figured out the mechanics and little like twerks and how to figure out every little aspect of the game and how everything works.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, people like it was a way different era of gaming when we all remember mini games being a thing. Like, yeah, it wasn't as easy to find best information. You weren't always reading a guide for everything. People were much happier to take like 4 hours to figure something out that should take half an hour. But nowadays, it's like, people want things to be quick. It's a little bit weird to me because this post has like 2.3K upvotes, and it's like, I would love more than anyone for minigames to come back. But when I came back to the game in 2014 or early 2015, I can't remember which one it was, they were already dead, and that was before invention. So like, it's and invention is the only time we started actually wearing armor with dream rates, because pre-invention the best armor to wear was void armor.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think it has the amount of upvotes because the suggestion is solid. Like, why have drain rate in a minigame?
that's true.
I think they could do a few other things if that would help minigames out. Maybe would be like having a joint world for all of them, where like the lobby is just one world.
Yeah, I think that would definitely do something, but I also think, I mean, to me, an easy solution would be make treasure hunter keys earnable in minigames. That would bring them back. But they would never want to give up that revenue stream. But it would totally. I think the biggest thing about minigames is there's no modern incentive that's going to make people keep playing them, because like once you've unlocked everything, it's time to move on and unlock things somewhere else. And really, I think the thing you can do, you got to find like the minigame clans and stuff, because I think that's where they still live, right? Is you find the clans or the friends chats that are committed to minigames, and I think you can still play them pretty well there. But it's hard to even find a way to play them legitimately. It's just a big problem too.
Yeah, they can be gamed or rigged or whatever.
Yeah, if you go to Castle Wars and try to actually play it, you get yelled at.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap up the RuneScape section for today. We have one topic here in gaming, in general gaming news we're going to talk about, which is Twitch and really gaming at large finally being forced to look at the abuse problems that are rampant within the culture. Would you like to read the piece from Patricia Hernandez?
I can definitely do that. So it's titled, Twitch Starts Banning Streamers Over Sexual Abuse Allegations. Subtitle is, A Handful of Users Are Already Off the Service. In response to an outpouring of sexual assault and abuse allegations involving talent and management firms, Twitch has started rolling out permanent bans. The company announced Wednesday night. We've prioritized the most severe cases and will begin issuing permanent suspensions in line with our findings immediately, Twitch said in a blog post, stating that it is still in the process of investigating some allegations. In many of the cases, the alleged incident took place off Twitch, and we need more information to make a determination. The live streaming company also promised to develop better tools to deal with harassment, rework its associated policies, and create better detection tools for offensive usernames and chat usage. While the company did not outright name any streamers in the announcement, a Twitter account dedicated to cataloging bans from the service saw an uptick in posts that coincide with recent allegations. So far, users I Am Spoon, Bless RNG, Warwitch TV, Dreaded Cone, and Wolve21 have been taken off the service. The biggest live streamers accused of misconduct, Tom Syndicate Cassell and Destiny 2 streamer Lono Say No to Rage, have not yet faced repercussions from Twitch. Cassell denied a recent sexual assault allegation, while Lono published an apology video over his actions. These allegations are part of a larger wave within the gaming industry, where dozens of women have been sharing stories about misconduct from prominent figures within the space, including developers. Twitch's actions also come in the heels of a site-wide blackout where users vowed to stop streaming for a day to raise awareness of recent allegations. Twitch encourages users who have more information related to these accusations to use the service's in-house reporting tools, which are confidential. Twitch CEO Emmett Shear also recently shared an internal email sent to staff in which he said that the company may take additional measures, such as removing promotional opportunities and partnership status, including depending on the situation. This reckoning and industry-wide actions are overdue, and this is a issue that we and the industry need to address to create lasting and positive change.
Which is a real funny statement because that's the same person who laughed about, haha, isn't it funny this shit our streamers get up to or something like that.
Really?
I'm
not familiar with who they're talking about.
There was some all hands meeting. I don't know the details of this, so I may be getting some of this wrong, but I believe there's an all hands meeting a while back where one of the employees asked the CEO or someone high up at Twitch about the sexual misconduct that goes on the platform. Like, this is before any of this happened, and they basically shrugged it off because obviously, like, much we were talking about the old school RuneScape community being racist and Jagex knowing that, like, Twitch knows that its platform's success is built off of men being really disgusting. And so there's not an incentive for them to do anything until they have to because it makes them money. And so, I mean, they've banned some smaller streamers. They still haven't taken any action against some really big ones out there that have been called out. I mean, and they won't even talk about why they banned one of their biggest streamers ever, which we can't even tell if it's related to this or not.
The Dr. Disrespect guy?
Yeah, yep. Twitch really needs to stop thinking, like, I don't know, this whole thing that where, like, you know, we don't talk about the bans that we make. It's like, you need to hold people accountable. You don't have to make direct accusations. You can literally say alleged in your post. I get that you don't want to be legally held accountable, right. But it's very easy to avoid legal accountability by using the right wording. But it's a good thing that this shit's happening. And I mean, it's spread out to gaming in general. Like the Max Temkin, one of the co-creators of Cards Against Humanity, after 6 years of being accused of terrible shit, finally got some comeuppance for what he's done. Took way too long, but finally things are happening. Hopefully they actually keep happening because, we like to pretend, well, not we, but the world pretends like cancel culture is real, but usually generally these people disappear for 6 months and then come back however they want.
Right. Let's take a different position, different company.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I admit that I'm not like a hardcore Twitch user, so I'm not familiar with like the ins and outs of Twitch culture. Like, I watch Twitch streamers, but like I don't live and breathe it. So
yeah, I definitely have lived and breathed it for a long time, especially when I was extremely depressed. It was a very long time where it was the primary thing I consumed. And
what was some of the culture like were you watching streamers that these accusations came against? Or
I don't know of any of these streamers. Like, I think I watched a little bit of Say No to Rage, but it's not, just like a lot of this stuff, it's nothing insidious or obvious. It's just like, or something obviously insidious is what I mean. Obviously, it is actually insidious. But it's just general sexism going unaddressed, and Twitch really started out with all these, like, and still is, but like Twitch grew up with its streamers. So like these 17, 18-year-old kids become famous and they have no idea how to be adults, and they never actually have to learn how to be adults because they just have money and privilege. So they act like they did in high school, and expect not to get in trouble for it.
And they surround themselves with fans who constantly reinforce, their own opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you're a fan of someone, you can't be objective when they've done something wrong. And even before, we still have no idea what Dr. Disrespect was banned for. And still, the night he was banned, like, just a massive outpouring of love to him, being like, "This is wrong. We were supporting you." Like, y'all haven't even heard what happened yet, and you're willing to support this guy. Like that. Like, celebrity culture is just toxic.
Have they given Dr. Disrespect like special treatment in regards to like why? Because they said they don't talk about the bans, but have they talked about these other streamers, why they've been banned?
They never get specific about bans. That is one thing they are consistent on. They are not consistent on who they ban. They very clearly ban less popular streamers way quicker. Like, for example, at E3 last year, Dr. Disrespect took his camera crew into a bathroom multiple times, which is against California law and against terms of service on Twitch.
And creepy.
And extremely creepy. Yeah. And he got a slap on the wrist. I think he got a 2-week ban, maybe a month ban. And yeah, they did nothing because he's one of their most popular streamers. So why would they care that he broke the law? And yeah.
So that makes me speculate that whatever it is, this time was too egregious to ignore with the amount of money they bring him. Or he brings Twitch, yeah.
Yeah, it's impossible to tell. I mean, but part of me wonders if and this is complete speculation, people. We don't know anything, to be clear, and I want to admit that. But like, a part of me wonders if Dr. Disrespect if part of his ban wasn't even related to what happened last year at E3, because I imagine people press charges against him for that, and those court cases take a long time to actually have anything happen.
And the courts aren't operating at full capacity as it is during quarantine.
Yeah, and even if they were, like, accusing a really rich, successful person of doing something creepy takes a long time to get through the court because they have a bunch of lawyers and they can slow shit down. So I doubt it's actually related to that, but like, it could be. I mean, also Dr. Disrespect a few years ago left the platform after being found out, after his wife discovered he was cheating on her. So it wouldn't be surprised if he was wrapped up in some kind of sexual misconduct, because there is evidence of him sleeping with fans, and that is an abuse of power in general. So it wouldn't be surprised if he abused the power further in some way, which obviously, again, that's speculation. We have no idea.
I'm hoping that with essentially the Me Too movement but expanding to like the gaming world, to bring it back to Jagex, hopefully they start examining themselves if they haven't already.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just like be ahead of that. That's what makes me wonder about that statement that we talked about earlier. But that one was quite vague.
Yeah, it did come out around the same time, so it would make sense if an old school RuneScape streamer was accused, or even just like they were getting ahead of it because I don't know, they know the toxic culture that exists. I mean, like Emily is Pro is a great example of the sexist culture that exists. I mean, like, Emily is Pro did an extremely fucked up thing, to be clear, but has gotten hate for it endlessly since, just because she's a woman, and like, yeah, she's not allowed to move on from her huge mistake. Meanwhile, like, these men who get accused of extremely heinous things move on in a few months. It's a sad situation. I hope that it's good to see people being called out.
And this isn't something new. It's just coming to light is all. Like, this has always existed.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's a big problem in media and how stuff gets covered. Because even like, when I don't know if you saw that video that's going around talking about how some news reporter did like an in-depth report on Karens and how Karen is a sexist term and stuff like that.
I've heard that idea floated, and I'm like, but it's based off your actions, not who you are.
Right, and like the thing that you're seeing with the usage of the word Karen. Like, yes, it can be used by sexist people, just like anything can be, because our society is sexist. But no, using that term is not an inherently sexist thing. Calling out someone for being a piece of shit, I mean, especially the privilege that we white women hold and can literally get black people murdered for, like, yeah, calling that out is important. Are sexist people going to show up and take it to the next degree? Sure, because sexist people show up everywhere and take it to the next degree. It doesn't matter. Like, it's the same place where the whole Bernie Bros thing came from, right? Because, like, Bernie Bros weren't a thing. There was just sexism in the Bernie Sanders movement, just like there is sexism in every movement. There is no movement that's free of sexism or racism or whatever, and that's why we have to be vigilant and reject those things when they do pop up, and not pretend like, oh, this movement's worse than this one or something, because I mean there are movements that are worse than others, but sexism is going to exist no matter what atmosphere you're in, unless you are fighting it, because sexism is what's the word I'm looking for? Systematic. That's the word I'm looking for.
Right.
Anyways, we can end up on something slightly happier. Have you been? Do you play other video games? I've never even asked you.
I do. I play a lot of single player games, but
okay.
So I don't have a lot to say about those, but I do play a lot of Overwatch.
Oh, you still play Overwatch? Interesting.
Yeah, I've put in. I think that might be my second most played game behind RuneScape, of all time.
Wow. I put a lot of time into that game. I got burnt out by how they meta shift. I mean, it's still a great game. It's just not for me anymore.
No, that's totally valid. I mean, I'm not a shooter game type person. I don't typically like those.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to really appreciate how Overwatch has captured my interest and attention for having those elements in it. Like, and I hear the argument where, they're like, Overwatch is not a shooter, and they're right in some regards, but I'm just glad I can be part of that as a non-shooter.
Personally, I kind of reject that. Overwatch is a shooter that doesn't, I'm not trying to reject what you're saying. I'm trying to reject people who criticize it that way, because I'm a big FPS fan, but really Overwatch is a shooter that doesn't only value being a Twitch accurate, which is really the problem. Like I see it just in video games in general. I mean, and by Twitch accuracy, I don't mean like Twitch the streaming platform, but like, being able to move your wrists really fast and hit somebody's head. Like that's like the only skill that's seen as valuable in first person shooters. And it's really like not actually the case, because Overwatch is a game that really tries to amplify that and show nope, actually being a healer is really hard and also important. Knowing how to position yourself is really hard and also important. And instead of being a game about like hold this corner and wait for someone to come around it and then snap to their head and kill them, you have all these diversity in characters and things you can do. And I have so many friends who never played a shooter before who got into Overwatch because it allowed you to not only care about because it allows for such different skills and that you can meet together.
I'm glad that bridge exists.
Yeah, absolutely. It would be great to see. Oh no, it would be great to see more games trying to combine those worlds, because I enjoy. Well, actually, I don't enjoy fast-paced shooters. I enjoy a shooter that's at like the pace of like Halo 2.
Sure.
But really what I am is a more objective. I like being able to sit back and think think tactfully and be like, all right, I'm going to out-position this guy, and that's how I'm going to beat them. I don't have the better shot, but if I out-position myself and I save and I send my diva ult to the right place, then I can make moves that I couldn't usually make.
Yeah, because I think I have good game sense, but not mechanical skill necessarily.
Yeah.
And mine has improved over the time I've played, no doubt. But yeah, I like being able to use my game sense and like outthink my opponent.
Absolutely. What's the latest character they introduced? I forget.
Her name is Echo, and she's an Omnic AI type character. It was clear that they intended her to be a healer, but as development went along, she became a DPS.
Oh, interesting. Have you have you enjoyed playing her? Or?
She's fun. She kind of plays like she's hyper aggressive, like in her play style.
Okay.
But really calm in her demeanor. So it's kind of a interesting opposing situation.
Sure.
But she kind of plays as like a very mobile hero that can like kind of like in the vein of Tracer,
Okay.
but also can fly.
Okay, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
I was always a fan of the more slow-paced characters in that game. Like I mained Diva. Well, I mained Reinhardt for a while, but I got bored of playing a dude, so I made Diva and Mercy. And really, when I played that game a lot, I actually got good at a bunch of different characters because I like to try to play flex for my team and switch off when things were going bad and try to change momentum. So I played a lot of Reaper too. Reaper was really fun. But I definitely picked the slow, pick where you're moving, not try to get in there fast and get out fast. Because like Tracer's a character I always wanted to be able to play, but she's way too zippy for me.
Yeah, she's quite zippy. I think I play Mercy a lot, Orisa a lot.
Orisa's adorable.
Yeah, she is. And I play Wrecking Ball a lot.
Oh my god. Wrecking Ball is one thing that made me want to come back to the game because that character is just so much fun.
Oh, he's bonkers fun. I mean, like, when you get destroyed by him, you know, when you meet a good one in game, you're like, oh god, I hate you. But also, out of respect.
But also, you're adorable.
You're adorable. You're a wonderful little hamster.
Did you ever see the concept art for the mech cat that was originally supposed to be in the game?
Jetpack cat, yeah. He actually released an emote of a jetpack type cat for Brigitte.
Oh,
because they said something about it'll never come to the game, but we also, I'm like, why not? Because it seems to fit to me. But
that was before. Yeah, when they were saying that, I was like, this totally fits. And then when they did the Wrecking Ball, I was like, okay, now y'all are just denying me a beautiful mech cat because you're jerks.
That's how I felt too. I'm like, okay, now that you've released like a hamster and a ball, and I'm like, and you have a talking gorilla.
Yeah. I imagine there's with how the community reacted to Mech Cat. I feel like Mech Cat's almost certainly going to exist in Overwatch too, like because people want it, and Blizzard likes to give people exactly what they want. Well, that's not true.
That's not true.
Sometimes.
Sometimes
like they give people exactly what they want, and I think like the fact that the Mech Cat meme or whatever you want to call it, the want for it hasn't died, and anytime it comes up, people get excited. I think might make them reconsider what they do there. All right.
Sure.
Well,
what have you been playing?
I have been playing Destiny 2 mostly. Have you ever played any of the Destiny games?
I haven't. I almost got to a point where I was like, I am ready to try this, but I haven't gotten to that point.
I don't know. I have a lot of criticisms of it, but it's a really fun... First of all, it has amazing lore. The lore is very inaccessible, and you have to watch like YouTube videos or be willing to pick it up piecemeal. But it has some of my favorite lore ever in video games, which is part of why I enjoy it so much. But it's also just a really good community game that is easy to play with other people and has a huge PvE aspect to it. So you're not like constantly trying to be sweaty in PvP. You can just go, kill relatively easy to kill things together with your friends and kind of have conversations and explore this really cool world together. But really what it's about, since you haven't played it, is it kind of takes place after the fall of humanity, and you are essentially it's very much an MMO, but in systems, but it's not an MMO in length. Like it doesn't have that much content. It's just repeat the same content over and over. So that kind of has to be a thing that you like. But basically humanity is all but wiped out because of these powerful alien races. And you come back and you are one of the first hopes humanity has had in a long time in kind of like fighting back this never-ending enemy, and they do a lot of cool stuff where like the alien races are like some of them are essentially gods, and they have their own like planes of existence and stuff like that. And some of the most fun I've had in that game is like when you kill certain creatures or like bosses in that game, they don't actually die. They just go into their ascended plane, and then you have to go into their ascended plane and actually kill their final form. And so that's how they kind of do like raids and stuff like that. Like, I don't know if you ever played World of Warcraft, but it plays somewhat like that with less content and as a first-person shooter, if you want to be real derivative about it, or real basic about it, not derivative. But yeah, it's just a real fun shooter, and it's a real pretty game.
I'm okay with that. I mean, this is the first time I've heard someone praising the lore behind it, because I've like that wasn't really like something that someone tried to sell me on.
The lore,
when it comes to Destiny.
Yeah, the lore delivery is terrible, which is why no one sells it that way. They've gotten way better at it of late, because I think they were clearly building to something, but also they recently left Activision Blizzard, which I think has given them more control over what they want to do.
Sure.
But there's a 4-hour lore video on YouTube that a streamer
Only
made.
4.
that a YouTuber made near the end of last year that lays out the whole story of Destiny. And that really, like, I've always loved the lore, but I've never been able to fully understand it because of having ADHD and stuff, and just not being able to read a bunch of text and piece stuff together. But watching a 4-hour lore video that literally starts in the beginning and then gets to where you awaken and to current events was really cool, because you learn all this stuff. Like, I don't know if you knew this, but one of the main villains in Destiny 1 is actually trans.
That's cool.
Like, he is of a race. Well, the race is known as the Hive, but then he gets enough power that he basically like manipulates the race into becoming a different thing called the Taken, and it basically gets power over life itself and the ability to resurrect. But his story starts out with like with like his father being murdered, and like him and his sisters are royalty, and then the way their alien race works is like I guess you get some. The easy way to explain it is you get some kind of control over evolution and like what role you want to pick, so that when like he decided to ascend to basically kinghood, decided to transition essentially, but in a really weird alien way. But I love, I love people exploring transness and how it could exist in different ways. And I know some people, I'm like acquaintances, very rough acquaintances with people who have worked at Bungie, and it seems like people there actually care about doing that stuff in cool ways. And it's not an accident that character can be read as trans. It's very clearly like purposeful of them. It's cool stuff.
That's dope. I'm all for that. I'm kind of over like the normal like stories that we hear about trans characters, and I'm like, I want some like trans alien robots and other cool stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give me the weird trans.
Yeah, I agree. Give me the weird trans. And I think that is a great note to end on, to be completely honest.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. This has been a really fun episode. Thank you for joining me. Like I said at the beginning, everybody, we'll hopefully be back in some more regular sense. I don't know how that's going to work with co-hosts and stuff. I'm not going to re-reference all that, just re-saying that. Do you have anything you want to plug, Alice, before we wrap up? No, I mean, I'll just plug my in-game name of Malice Face Alice. But yeah, that's all I want to plug. You can message me and we can figure out something to do.
Yeah.
Or we can just chat.
Yes, I like that message. Send messages to Alice. Tell her how awesome she is, because she is. If you, you're welcome. If you want to join the sister clan to RuneScape Weekly, it is Kill Skill, the letter N Chill in game. If you want to find our Discord, it's at discord.runeweek.com. If you want access to the show notes, let me know. I'm still trying to figure out how to handle show notes because I want to make them more accessible to folks, but I got to figure that out. So I'm not sure if these will be available, but hopefully we'll figure out some show notes stuff in the future. Thank you to Magebit for making RuneScape Weekly and hosting the podcast. Thank you to RR Man for his work on notes production. Thank you again to everyone supporting the show on Patreon. We will be back soon with something new or a new episode. I made that sound like we're making changes again. I'm just wording things weird. We'll be back with a new episode in a week or a couple weeks or something. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for listening, and happy scaping.
Thank you. Bye.